Going on YouTube, Cloverbills here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be giving an updated Regulation E tier list for the format right now. And I feel like it's a good idea to do this now because, you know, we've had a couple of regionals come and gone, we've had a bunch of online tournaments, and now I think we're at a point where we can give another re-evaluation of where we are right now in the given meta. Because, you know, we still have some other upcoming regionals. We have a lot more player challenges. We have a lot more mid-season challenges coming up. So I think it's a good idea to give you guys a perspective on what's really good to use, what's okay to use, and what's maybe like relatively niche. Okay, and then also don't use at all, right? So before we even get started, you can notice that I already have like pre-filled options here in the don't use category. That's pretty much because, you know, I don't want to expend you know, time in the video talking about why these things are in the don't use category. I think it's self-explanatory. You know, you got Furret, Noctowl, Ariados here, you know, Mightyena. These are Pokemon that are never going to really see competitive play, in my opinion, right? As far as the rest of the tiers are concerned, you know, just to explain them all before we even like get going with everything else. The S tier means best of the best. That means they're very splashable on a lot of different teams, you know, not just one specific team, but you can literally say, okay, I can put this, you know, in 9 teams out of 10 and it makes my team better, right? The A tier is basically, you know, almost similar to the S tier, still very strong and consistent options. You know, you'll see a lot of teams use these Pokemon. You know, they're what we call like almost staples, right? Technically your S tier can also be like staples at this given time, but again, these are just things that are like very strong and consistent within the meta at the given moment. The B tier are still like very good Pokemon, but they have either one stat that holds it back or one ability that holds it back, or, you know, maybe the coverage that it gets isn't all that great, but you can win tournaments with these. These are like a little bit more specific to certain teams, but overall they're still like very good options. And then the C tier is what we call the niche tier. These are Pokemon that are usually only good on like one kind of team, where they fulfill a certain role and then that's it. You can't really splash them onto different teams. Like, they're only really good on a specific archetype, right? So that's why we call them niche. And then of course the D tier, which is, you know, don't use, you know, either a combination of like bad stats, bad typing, not great move sets, and, you know, just all in together, not very good in the competitive doubles format. All right, so now that we've explained the tiers, all right, we have quite a few Pokemon to go through. I think this is everything that we want to rank. If I'm missing things, let me know, and then in the comment section, then I'll feel free to reply and tell you where I think it ranks. But I think for the most part, this is where we are as far as what Pokemon are available in Regulation E. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, and we are off to a great start here by starting with Sandslash here. So I actually think this Sandslash is not usable, but this one is okay, right? In terms of like a niche option. So of course, it's only really going to be good on those Hail teams with like Alolan Ninetales or Abomasnow, if you care to use that one. But outside of that, you know, I can't really see it being used. I don't think I've ever seen it once so far. You know, either on Showdown Ladder or Best of 3, I haven't seen it. You know, and, you know, Ice Steel typing is a little bit tough. You're 4 times weak to fighting, 4 times weak to fire. So Ogerpon Fire kind of runs through it, you know, and it does get a nice little speed boost, you know, in the Hail. But other than that, it might be able to do something for a Hail team. Like, it does get a defense boost now, right? So there's that. But overall, I think you're better off with just putting this here in the C tier and just using like some, like, I would probably even use Articuno over the Sandslash here in this case. All right, so Clefable, it does get Unaware, right? But you have to be hard pressed to convince me that I would use this as my fairy option over something like Flutter Mane, right? So I'm gonna say Clefable is gonna go either in the low C tier or either like somewhere in the don't use category, right? Now Clefairy, right, the fact that it gets Friend Guard and it gets a little bit better bulk with the Eviolite is gonna make it a pretty good option. I'm gonna almost say it's either like low A or high B, right? It's a good Pokemon for redirection support. It gets Heal Pulse, Follow Me. You can see this a lot of times on like Combo-O teams or Snorlax teams, but all in all, it's a pretty decent support option. We just featured it on the channel recently when we used that Combo Titan team, you know, with Chessboard. So I think it's a, you know, it's a very good Pokemon to use. All right, the 2 Ninetales. So I think this one, the regular one, is relatively niche for like those Sun teams, but You know, there's better Sunsetters than this one, but you know, Fast Sun is not too bad sometimes. All right, but this one, I'm gonna say this is the A tier, right? We've had a lot of Ninetales teams, you know, that people have used that have, you know, won tournaments or done very successful in terms of like top cut results in the online tours. And for good reason. Ninetales gets a defense boost now. You get access to Aurora Veil, so you can play defensively. You get things like Icy Wind, Encore. You get a fairy move, Moonblast, you know, for the Urshifus. And then, of course, it's just a very fast Pokemon in general. You can outspeed Chiyu. You do have to be careful of the Ogerpon, right? It does outspeed you by 1 point, you know, when it is Jolly Max Speed. But, you know, Ninetales as an art type in general, it's not even just like specific to Hail teams, right? You could do like Ninetales Roaring Moon, like what we did, and just make your entire team bulky. You could use it on some Tailwind teams to also, you know, get that speed control with Tailwind, and then also use some bulk with the Aurora Veil. So it works like that. But overall, I think Ninetales is a great Pokemon to build around, and you know, for that reason, we put it in the A tier. Okay, the 2 Arcanines. So I think this one goes here, and this one goes somewhere around here, and for good reason, right? I think it's a consensus that, you know, the Hisuian version is definitely better than the regular version. You know, Stab Rock Slide can go a long way, and actually, you know, this was already been used. You know, stuff like Tyranitar now, because you know it just won. You get a nice little Spadef boost. You still get access to Will-O-Wisp and Snarl like the regular Arcanine, but then you get hard-hitting Flare Blitzes. You can use this with like Choice Band sets. It gets more attack, right, than the regular Arcanine, which you know, makes a big difference in the grand scheme of things. So I definitely think this goes in the A tier, right? And you can even make the argument that it might even be in the S tier, but I don't think I need to necessarily go there yet. But it's definitely like a very, very strong A tier Intimidator. Right, I would say like your 2 best Intimidators in the format are Landorus and the Hisuian Arcanine, and then everyone else just comes after that in terms of like your Intimidate options. Right, it's also a great Fire type user, so you get some Flutter Mane resistance, which forced them to now run Power Gem on their Choice Spec sets. Right, that's Power Gem Flutter Mane is rising yet again for this reason. You know, it's also good into like the Alolan and Ninetales stuff. So yeah, it just makes sense, you know, just to put this thing in the A tier. Victory Bell, again, you know, I think it's better than a lot of these guys, but, you know, not much better. Like, I understand you get Chlorophyll, and for that, you have some niche there. I can't really see this being used in, like, a tour. I know Sierra uses this in, like, the caster battle, but, no, that was actually, like, Weeping Bell, wasn't it? Alright, but anyway, so you get Chlorophyll, you get Fast in the Sun. Same reason, like, Sandslash. There's just better options if you're gonna go that route. So, you know, yeah, we put it here. This Golem, you know, kind of like the regular Golem, not much better. You know, you still have better options. Like, hey, if you look at its stats, okay, like it can be, wait, Golem, it can be used in like Trick Room stuff because again, you're slower than base speed 50, which means you're faster than stuff like Iron Hands and King Gambit in Trick Room. But the Rock Electric typing isn't so great. You know, 4 times weak to ground. You're weak to fighting moves. You know, something like an Iron Hands. You have a great attack stat, very good defense stat, pretty solid HP, you know, I would say. So there's like some niche for this, you know, if you just consider stuff like, you know, Iron Hands like and King Gambit. They have like similar stat builds where like the special defense is the lacking stat, whereas the attack and defense are both like very, very strong. But tell me why I should use those two, why I should use this over those two, right? That's what I'm saying here. So very, very niche. Okay, if I'm going to be running an electric user that's slow, just give me the Iron Hands. Why do I need to use this Golem here, right? So I think for that reason, you know, we'll still put it in the niche tier. Like, it's still like okay if someone wants to use it. Actually, I don't think it's okay at all, but, you know, we'll give it respect over something like these D tier options, right? All right, this Weezing is going over here, and this one I think goes down here. So I think the regular Weezing is much better than the Alolan one. This is weak to steel, and just all in general, I think this one is much better, you know, for the typing wise. And you know, if you just look at Weezing in general, this format, like the defense that it gets is very good, like 120 base defense. And now what you're able to do is just probably run like max HP here, Citrus Berry set, you know, again, like Will-O-Wisp, Taunt, and then Protect over here, and then either this is like Gunk Shot or Sludge Bomb, depending on you how you want to run the wheezing, but either way, shutting down abilities is huge. Okay, you know, with neutralizing gas, and then often, almost all the time, you're gonna see this being paired with Fluttermane and Roaring Moon. Okay, and this is where I would start if you're trying to run a wheezing team, of course, because Photosynthesis doesn't really care about this. And then you can just run something like Landorus here with, you know, the ability shield. So this way, you know, the Intimidate is still gonna work, right, in that sense. And then at the same time, now what you're able to do is just go for, you know, the rest of the team, something like this with Ogerpon. Let's go with the fire one, and let's, you know, you can probably just do like Rillaboom here, and then at the same time, instead of Rillaboom, you can even do Iron Hands. And I think that this is already like a very good wheezing team. Like if I had to build a wheezing team, I would just use this, right? And it's so good at like, you know, because like look at this, Iron Hands doesn't even have an ability. It's a top 3 used Pokemon that doesn't even use its ability. So let's use Wheezing to take away everybody else's ability, and now all of a sudden Iron Hands looks like the Holy Grail or something, right? So, you know, Wheezing, very, very good. I think it definitely merits an A slot. You can definitely use it to build, and people are still not really prepared or experienced to, you know, go against it unless you're like one of the OGs, right? You know, and for that, you can also use that to your advantage, right? But overall, again, it's just a really, really good option. Gyarados, so, you know, I feel like it's kind of like the regular Arcanine. It's still a very good Intimidator, right? Access to like Thunder Wave, Taunt. You can even use like Chilling Water to an extent. It's a very bulky Pokemon all in all. Still good on certain teams that want to use an Intimidator that, you know, you didn't cover with either Landorus or Arcanine. I still think it's a decent option. Snorlax, let's put it in the niche tier. I almost put it here in like solid, and it is solid. You know, I'm gonna put it better than these guys. So like I've seen this either on like those Clefairy teams, you know, with the belly drum set, or I've even seen this in some of those Trick Room teams. So, you know, Snorlax can do well there, right? I don't think you can put this on like some of those Tailwind teams or some of those balance teams. I think it's very specific in terms of how you want to build with Snorlax, but you do need like redirection support if you want to run that belly drum set. I like this with Sinistra, you know, again, to be able to get recovery back. I think Snorlax is a good Pokemon, but it's very specific in terms of like what kind of teams you want to use it on, right? I don't think I can just slap this on, you know, whereas like a lot of these you can. Okay, so this Articuno I'll put in the C tier, and then this one I'll also put in the C tier, right? So finally, for the first time, I'm putting both in the C tier, like both regular and Alolan version. So, you know, with this one, we've always said like the fact that you get access to Tailwind and Trick Room, you know, with the regular Articuno. Let me just take this away. Not the regular Articuno, the Galarian one. Like you get Tailwind, you get Trick Room, okay, and you have competitive. So I feel like you do have some niche there. Do you get expanding? You don't get expanding force. If it did, I'd probably rank it a little bit higher. So, you know, decent bulk, and the fact that you get access to both of these, like, will definitely give you some niche along with competitive. Like, I don't know another Pokemon like this. So I feel like if someone really wanted to explore it, they can probably make it work. But again, you know, do you need to really bang your head on the wall, you know, to try and do that, right? Where you have like stuff like King Gambit or stuff like Milotic or Empoleon even, like, are much better competitive users than this. All right. And I didn't mean like King Gambit. Like King Gambit has Define, but you understand what I'm saying. All right, Zapdoses. So I think both of them are gonna go here, right? Like I've seen some good teams in those online tours with like Defiant Zapdos, and for good reason. It does good damage, right? And it does deter, you know, the other Intimidators, right? You know, you get a nice little Defiant boost. You get that Choice Scarf set, where you can like also go with U-turn stuff. So Galarian Zapdos does have some use, right? And as well as the regular one, right? Because if you just consider, let me just take away a lot of these Pokemon now. Regular Zapdos also still gets access to Tailwind and Roost, which of course is still pretty good. And I can totally see this behind Grimmsnarl teams again, or even like Alolan Ninetales teams, where you're just hiding behind screens and just dealing a bunch of damage, right? So like this can still work, you know, to an extent, but I feel like there's a little bit, I kind of like the Moltres of the three birds, right? So, you know, I still think they're pretty good here. So speaking of Moltres, We'll put this one in C, and this one, can we put this in the A tier? I think, you know what? I think B tier is correct for Moltres this time around. Like, I like Moltres. We made a very, very good Moltres team with Sinistra and Screens, and I think that's the best way to go about it. And, you know, Victory Road very kindly put that team on their website. So if you want to use that rental, feel free to do that. But Moltres behind Screens is a very, very dangerous threat, right? Because you get a lot of times, especially with Sinistra, by the way, and then you just add the Citrus Berry here. So you can double dip or even triple dip into your Berserk and now start sweeping teams with like Fiery Wrath. And there's no drawback to Fiery Wrath. It's 100% accurate. You get access to Flinch, of course, and then you get all this healing from Sinistra. You get redirection support, you get Trick Room, you get Screens here, right? And then you can even slap on the Hisui and Gudra, which I've seen on the rise, of course, you know, because of Ryota Otsuba. You could definitely do stuff like this, but I think it's very specific in terms of like, you know, what kind of team it can be good. But overall, it's still like a very, very good Pokemon. So I think B tier is correct this time. Dragonite. So where are we gonna put Dragonite here? I feel like it's still good with like Chien-Pao and stuff. I still don't see, like, it has good regional results. It has good online results. Like, I see no reason why I can't put it in the A tier again. All right, Typhlosions. So, oh man, yeah, I think, like, okay, you get like that fast eruption, right? But like, do you really care? I think they both go in the C tier, in all honesty, right? I know one is a little bit faster than the other, but still, like, give me another reason to use this as a ghost type over something like Fluttermane or Goldengo, right? I understand, like, again, the fast eruption idea, but I still think the Trick Room eruption from something like Torkoal is just a little bit better. But still better than the D tier options, right? I just don't think they're better to use over some of our other A or B tier options. Azumarill, definitely at least B tier right now. The fairy typing should go on the rise because dragon typing is so good right now, you know. And then again, another belly drum user that, you know, can sweep teams, especially with superpower ability. So I do like that over here. And then water covers, of course, is very, very good into something like the fire ogre ponds for that matter. Fairy moves, like we said, is good into the dragons. Even Assault Vest Azumarill could have some good play if someone is willing to explore it. I do like it right now. I think B tier is correct. Jumpluff, you know, Sun is in an interesting spot right now. I think the most dominant weather right now is, of course, snow. Rain, if you're going to be using like Tornadus teams, or like Sunny Day is going to be coming from Tornadus as well. I think Jumpluff had its time in Regulation C, and even D to an extent, but now is not the time. I think Jumpluff still has some use, but you would have to give it a niche role, right? And for that reason, it does belong in the niche tier. Murkrow, another good prankster user, but there are other prankster users right now, like Tornadus, for example, or even Grimmsnarl. So I think, you know, Murkrow, again, Haze is still good. Like, you want to Haze Dondozo, you want to Haze the Kamo-O stuff. Okay, you want to Haze Swords Dance boost. So you do have that going for you, but overall, I think there are better Haze users than the Murkrow at the moment, especially, you know, in terms of like dealing damage and having bulk. So for that reason, let's keep it in the C tier. Still a decent prankster Pokemon, but we have better options. Scizor, yeah, like, again, a good steel type. You can pin the Fluttermane slot, but it kind of gets walled by a lot of different things in the meta at this given time. But it still has like some role, you know, as a steel type in general. Technician does a lot of damage, especially with like choice band stuff. Does get access to Tailwind, like we mentioned in previous tier videos, so still within the C tier for Scizor. All right, Tyranitar. All right, so Tyranitar has seen a surge, you know, in recent days, you know, just because it did win a tour. I'm sorry, it did win the region. Okay, but even before that, it was still on like some online teams, right, in some of those tournaments, right? So it does have a pretty solid niche right now. I'm not ready to put it in the A tier, but the main thing with Tyranitar is you are able to change the weather on the Ninetales teams, and rock coverage is very, very good. I think Tyranitar, Hisui, and Arcanine is a very, very good combination, okay? And now it gets knockoff, right? Which is very, very important, you know, for Tyranitar. And then it's still weak to Urshifu, still weak to Fluttermane, still weak to Rillaboom, still weak to a lot of different things. I understand you have terrestrialization, but you have to like commit it if you want to preserve your T-Tar. So for that reason, still a decent option in the B tier, but I can't really put it higher than that right now in the given moment. But B tier is pretty good for T-Tar right now. All right, Ludi Colo, again, good on rain teams, but that's all about it. All right, so if you want to build a rain team, your Ludicolo can fit there. Outside of rain team, I don't see any use. Same thing with, you know, the shift tree. I understand it got chlorophyll. I'm sorry, not, it always had chlorophyll. That new ability, you know, similar to Bramble Gas with Rin Rider, but, you know, I don't see any other use besides that, but it is relatively new. I don't see it competing at a high level right now. Pelipper, I'm gonna put it in the B tier. Like, it's still good, right? It's still a very, very good range setter. It's bulky on the physical side. You get wide guard, you get hurricane, of course. You know, and again, the ability to change Ninetales weather is still good. So, you know, Pelipper has still some decent use. I think rain teams can do well. Okay, I just think snow is just a little bit better at the given moment. But B tier for Pelipper is still okay. Slacking, man, I really want to put this in the don't use, but you know, if you can put it with a wheezing, then it's okay, but that's about it. Like, I see no other reason to rank it any higher. I think C tier is correct. As is Sableye, you know, going with the Mirko slot, another good prankster user, you know, access to Sunny Day, Rain Dance, gets Will-O-Wisp. All right, does this thing get Haze? I don't remember if Sableye got Haze. Let me check here. It does not get Haze. All right, so even more reason to put it in the C tier. All right, Illumise, I want to say, all right, first of all, Volbeat goes down here. Don't use this one. If you had to use one between two, definitely use the Illumise. I want to say B or C for Illumise, right? And I'll tell you why. Like, it's still decent. Like, why would you use this over something like Tornadus? Because the idea with Illumise is that it gets access to fake tiers, which is something that Tornadus doesn't do. And the whole point with fake tiers is now what you can do is centralize your team building with Illumise, Flutter Mane, and Chiyu, right? I feel like this is the main thing you can use Illumise for, and then just have like a bunch of support and physical options here. But this is your core with Illumise, right? With Tailwind, fake tiers, all right, and then whatever you want after that, okay? But, you know, for that reason, I'll give it in the C tier, maybe even low B tier, but, you know, other than that, I don't see it as good as where it is right now. Torkoal. Torkoal, you know, again, very good in Trick Room teams. You can sweep with Torkoal, right? It's also seen on some of those size spam teams. Definitely high B tier, maybe even like low A tier for that matter. Just really all depends on what you value with the Torkoal. But again, very, very good Pokemon. And it's probably your best bet if you want to use like some Sun teams. You know, Torkoal with Ursaluna is very good because again, the Sun will reduce water damage in general, especially against your Ursaluna. So you have that going for you. Like, you can almost argue this could be like a low A tier option, but I think B tier is still correct for Torkoal. Crawdont, Dark type, good against Size Spam. I don't know where else I can use this. I think it's relatively slow, so you can make Trick Room work with this thing, right? And it does get adaptability, so there's that. Like 55 is pretty slow, so you can make this work in Trick Room. But you know, again, strong attack stat, not so great defense, but not terrible. The special defense is lacking. I almost want to put this in don't use, but you know, I think it's still better than a lot of these options. All right, my low tick, on the other hand, I almost want to put this in. Is this B or A? Yo, man, Milotic is pretty good. Like, we've had some great success with Milotic. You know what? It's gonna go in the low A tier for me, right? Again, access to Haze really makes Milotic very valuable right now. And then, of course, the competitive idea, just to, you know, really put pressure against those Arcanines and Landorses. Scald is really good, of course. It can change the game for that matter. And then Icy Wind Speed Control, like we mentioned, also is good. And then you have the really cool set that we've used in our other team building video with Salamence. It's the Hydro Pump Coil Hypnosis set. So you can also use that kind of set as well. This is also seen in like some of the top cut regional teams, right? So I think this also works, you know, with Milotic. So, you know, I really like it as an option right now. Great into Ogre Pond teams too. You just need the Terra Dragon option on it. but I think it's a good A tier Pokemon to me, right? But normally maybe you can even just put it as a high B tier option. Dusclops, all right, Dusclops is also another one that, you know, is pretty good. I almost want to put it in the A tier, right? I almost do. Like, it does, it like, dude, okay. I may change this position, but because it gets access to Brick Break and Will-O-Wisp, right? Let's put Dusclops over here. All right, Brick Break, you know, Will-O-Wisp, Trick Room, and then that's Trick or Treat. You know what I'm saying. Trick Room, and then consistent damage and Nightshade. You can even consider Pain Split, right? It just really all depends. You don't need Frisk anymore. This is open team sheet. Now Pressure has good value. You can PP stall a lot of different Pokemon. And for that reason, I think Dusclops, again, like it's competing with Cresselia in terms of like the bulky Trick Room user, but you know, Violite is so good on it, right? And then the ability to break Ninetale screens altogether, and then like activate a weakness policy onto your own Ursaluna is also very good, all right, in that sense, right? So I think it does merit an A tier slot, or maybe even B tier. It's a tough call. I'll leave it in low A for now. All right, Torterra, yes, it got Shell Smash. Okay, other than that, I don't really see it being used over something like Rillaboom or the Ogerpons or Sinistcha. The Infernape, same thing. Again, we did feature it on the channel. It did get ranked 1 on the ladder. It has some use, but yeah, man, I think Ogerpon is just a better fire type, as well as like Arcanine for that matter. You know, you'd be hard pressed to tell me I need to use that over something like those two options, right? The Empoleon, this one is also like another good solid B tier option. Like competitive was a huge buff to it in Regulation E, and you know, and just overall, like if you just look at Ogerpon, I'm sorry, Empoleon, there's a couple sets you can use. You can use the Life Orb set, right? You know, to make it do a lot of damage, where you have like Ice Beam, some water move, right? What's a good water move that it has in terms of like a special one? Not Surf, Hydrocan. You might have to do, yeah, I've seen like the Water Pledge stuff, and then you get Icy Wind, Speed Control, and then Protect over here. Like that works. I've also seen the Citrus Berry set with like Icy Wind and Yawn, right? And then Ice Beam, or even like the water move here, like as a support option here for forced repositioning purposes. So for that, definitely a good solid B tier option. Staraptor, you're a flying type. You get Intimidate, similar to like Landorus, similar to Gyarados, similar to Salamence. Okay, the difference now is you got that final Gambit option where you can just, you know, nuke something, get something in for free. Was really good onto those Trick Room teams like we demonstrated with Peter. But that's its main role there. No, outside of that, I'd probably go with Landorus or Salamence. But it does have that use, you know, on those teams. Luxray, I mean, like, I understand it gets Intimidate, but like, why would I need to use that when I have like other better Intimidate users? Gastrodon, okay, has always been like a solid, you know, Pokemon within the meta. I think B tier is correct. Like, you know, pinning, you know, using this against Urshifu or even like the Water Ogerpon. Be careful though, it does have a grass move. So you have to be aware of that. You know, like Rillaboom one-shots it, of course. You do have Terrestrialization, but like Ice Beam, Icy Wind, Yawn Pressure, just like Empoleon, is still very good. And the ground typing is just great altogether. You know, really good into the Iron Hand stuff. So, you know, I do like that for Gastrodon. So for that reason, you know, B tier is good. All right, this one, good fake out user, you know, fast fake out user, but I don't really know what else it can do besides that. You know, Bronzong is another good niche Pokemon, but you know, I always feel like Bronzong will always find itself within the meta. Iron Defense, Body Press, pretty good. Like anytime you can get good setup options, Bronzong is your man right here. Gyro Ball, Trick Room, of course, can come to those sets. I feel like someone will find a good use for Bronzong, but you know, even then, like maybe even C tier might be good. But like I want to leave it in B because I've always been like a good supporter for Bronzong for what it can do on a team. All right, this is Ground Flying. I don't really see this being used, right? You have Landorus. Give me one reason I should use Gliscor over Landorus. I don't know. Mamoswine is a good Pokemon. It does need a lot of support, okay? But I have seen it used on some of those Tailwind teams. Life Orb set, you know, Focus Sash set. you know, ice ground coverage is very good, especially against, you know, an opposing Landorus. A lot of those, you know, other Genie teams with Tornadus, you know, pretty good into Fire Ogerpon, but Fire Ogerpon's good into you. So just be aware of that. You know, good offensive moves, but defensively, Ice Ground does have its limitations there. So for that reason, niche, you know, just use Landorus. All right, Dusknoir, yeah, don't use this one. Dusclops was the better one. All right, the Rotoms, I feel like, again, just the fact that they're, you know, relatively bulky, they don't have any weaknesses, and, you know, you get Will-O-Wisp, again, can be used somewhat in the niche tier, but I don't see anyone using the Rotoms this time around. It had its fun in the sun in Regulation A, but, you know, after the Paradox Pokemon entered play, you know, you don't really see the Rotoms anymore. But they can work on certain teams, but I just don't see a need to when you have better options, right? And the same thing for these three, Uxie, Mesprit, right, and Azelf. Like, we did use Azelf from That's a +1's team, you know, with the slacking stuff. So, you know, again, does get access to Trick Room, you know, with these guys, but, you know, other than that, there's no reason to really use them. All right. Heatran, very, very good Pokemon. Definitely going in the A tier, especially now with that Magma Storm set that's on the rise with Terra Fairy. Again, also has access to Will-O-Wisp. You know, Flash Fire, very good. The Ogerpons have to be aware, but, you know, Mold Breaker is still like a very, very good ability into it. I've seen Ability Shield Heatran that can do well into those Ogerpons. It's really good into those Ninetales teams, especially with like Landorus as the other one. Right, so if you just put Ninetales here along with Landorus and Heatran, this has been a very, very successful core in Regulation E. You know, we did a whole video on it, and just like the steel typing is also very good. Like, now people are starting to run Flash Cannon yet again, so you might even see a set like this with Heat Wave, Earth Power, Flash Cannon, Protect, and then this is like Life Orb. Okay, this set is also like still pretty good right now. We've liked Substitute on our Heatrans, you know, with leftovers here. It's really good into the Trick Room game, especially like Armarouge stuff. So you can definitely even consider that. But, you know, just Heatran in general, especially like with other Dragon types like Excalibur has had good play. So definitely a good fire type to use, especially if you have another Intimidator that's not Hisuian Arcanine. I think the Heatran is also very, very good. Cresselia. Okay, Cresselia. Are we finally going to have our first S tier option? I think yes. I think it's like a high A or like a low S tier. You know, it's still very good. Like, both Ursalunas enjoy it very, very much. Super bulky. You know, Lunar Blessing is excellent. You know, that's what pretty much put it in the S tier in the first place, in my opinion, back in Regulation D. But all in all, you're one of your best Trick Room setters, if not your best Trick Room setter. So yeah, I definitely put Cresselia here in the S tier. Conkeldurr, all right, very good in Trick Room. That's about it. The Hisuian Lilligant, right? Just like Torkoal, I think they go together. This one, a little bit more niche now. But, you know, again, Sleep Powder, after you, Eruption plays, you know, has good fighting coverage. But altogether, I think it's still pretty good on some of those Trick Room teams that want to have a fast mode. So Hisuian Lilligant, Torkoal, definitely within the B tier. This one, all right, like it's got good typing, you know, the Ghost Normal type, but that's about it. Gothitelle is a good Pokemon, right? People are forgetting it, but again, Perish with Fake Out and Trick Room is still very, very good. Helping Hand play is also relatively nice, but Shadow Tag, you know, the fact that you stop Pokemon from switching out is very, very useful. You pin a lot of slots, especially when you run like Gothitelle, Urshifu. I think those teams are still like very, very strong. Just needs a little bit more playtime or a little bit more exploration, but I think it's still very good in Regulation E. Amoonguss, still like, okay, it's not in the S tier like it once was, but it's still like very good in the A tier. Like, you still see like Amoonguss top cutting tours, you still see it in regionals, right? It still has like the Rage Powder, the Spore stuff, and now even Clear Smog is valuable again because the sudden rise again of Dondozo, and then you have all this setup going down on with Swords Dance and the Iron Defense Body Press stuff. So, you know, I think Amoonguss will always still be a good Pokemon in VGC, even if there's so much Ogerpon running around. You know, there's Rillabooms and Sinistras. Like, I understand there's good grass types, but Amoonguss is still Amoonguss, okay, at the end of the day. Chandelure, you know, again, Flash Fire, Trick Room, has a use. Ghost Fire typing, not too bad. But, you know, again, there's some better flash fire users like Heatran, for example. But Chandelure does have some use. Mian Xiao, you know, gets access to Wide Guard, fast fake out user, good fighting type, good damage. Inner Focus can't be intimidated, so you know, can't also be faked out either. But why? But I have other use for a slot than something like Mian Xiao at the given moment. But you can make it work. It's still better than some of these D tier options. Braviary, another one in the C tier. Like it does get Tailwind, it does get Foul Play. Does this thing get Haze, by the way? Let me see. Not Braviary. What's this thing? Mandibuzz. I said Braviary. So Overcoat is pretty good, right? That's also nice. Like it's good bulk. It has great bulk, by the way. Like we did mention Tailwind. Do you get Icy Wind? You don't even get Icy Wind. Do you get Haze? You don't get Haze. Okay. Defog, I mean, maybe. Does get Fake Tears. Okay, there's that. Knockoff. Alright. I mean, I got Chimpound for that stuff. Does get Toxic. Scary Face. It has like some decent play. Alright, Snarl. Okay. Like again, very, very niche. I don't know what kind of team would actually use this thing, but if it is a team that would do successful with Mandibuzz, it's going in the C tier. All right, the Hydreigon again. What really helps it, at least puts it in the C tier, is that Dragon typing. You know, able to resist the Ogerpon stuff, even Urshifu for that matter. But you are weak to the fighting move from Urshifu. You are weak to Flutter Mane, 4 times weak. So you're almost pretty much committed to use that Terrestrialization. But you know, nobody's really using Hydreigon at the moment. Volcarona. All right, we had a really good team with Keanu. With Dragon, Terra, Volcarona. I think it's a very good Pokemon, right? And for that reason, B tier for sure. Like very, very solid. Like the fact that you can do Quiver Dance and wall out a lot of these Flutter Manes, and then just keep setting up and just keep hitting hard with Heat Waves all together, right? Just make it a very, very good overall option, right? I like it a lot in the meta. You know, that's why we built around it. So, you know, I think B tier is very, very good where it is. And, you know, there's not too many good special attackers right now, you know, because the meta is very, very physical. So I do think the fact that we can get a good, strong special attacker like Volcarona with that Dragon Terra just makes a lot of sense. All right, it's time for the genies. Okay. Let's put this one in S. Let's put Landorus in S. All right. And these guys, we'll put them in the C tier. Very, very niche. Okay. So, of course, the two genies, you know, Landorus and Tornadus. Landorus is your premier Intimidate user. Goes without saying, Adamant Choice Scarf sets are running around like crazy. Now you're getting the sudden rise with this ability shield with like Wheezing. So what you're able to do now is, you know, with the ability shield, okay, you can use your Intimidate now. And then not only that, Stomping Tantrum, now you get U-Turn, and now you get access to Protect. And then now you can have a little bit of speed control move, you know, with the Rock Tomb, which now forces you can be a little bit slower, right? At the same time, but you can be bulkier and maybe even hit harder, right? So, and this kind of Landorus would like to run Terra Water, but you'll see most of these Landorus's on those Wheezing teams, right? Because, and then other than that, you'll probably just see like the standard Choice Scarf Adamant set. Assault Vest can work, right? But it's not so popular right now at this given moment, but you know, Landorus, very, very good. Tornadus, like we said, your premier Prankster Tailwind user, okay? The ability to change weather, you know, with Sunny Day and or Rain Dance makes it really, really good. And then, of course, like we said, the Tailwind and the Bleakwind Storm for those speed drops is also huge. And then you get access to Taunt, so you can stop other setup plays. You know, Prankster Taunt is very, very good. You can, you know, of course, have this Covert Cloak where you're not going to get speed reduction from opposing Icy Wind. You know, Terra Ghost also, you know, for the fake out stuff. Just all in all, like a very, very good Pokemon right now. It's going to be even better when Kyogre gets released, right? Because your Bleakwind Storms are going to hit super hard. But yeah, still within the S tier. All right, these two, your starters, Chestnut and Greninja. I mean, yeah, I just don't know. Like, okay, you get Iron Defense and Bulk Up, right? So let me see, where's that? Chestnut. So you do get Bulletproof, right? Good attack, decent defense. Special defense, not so bad. 4 times weak to flying is not so great. There is the bulk up. Do you get iron defense? You do get iron defense body press stuff. Yes, you do. All right, so you have that going for you, as well as like some bulk up stuff. So, you know, you can probably find a niche for it, but at the same time, just use combo. It's a better one to use at this given moment. Greninja, they nerfed Protean, so still better than D tier, but other than that, that's it. Talonflame, also just like some of the other Tailwind users, C tier at the moment. You know, priority Tailwind with Gale Wings still pretty good. Does get access to, you know, Will-O-Wisp and whatnot. Still gets taunt, but other than that, you know, you probably have to be hard pressed to find a use for Talonflame, but still a decent Pokemon to use Tailwind with. Sylveon, B tier, you know, it's bulky, then it's bulkier than Flutter Mane. Hyper Voice with a +1 throat spray can make it sweep a lot of different teams, and with dragons on the rise, like we said, the fairy typing is going to be much more valuable. So I still think it's an okay mon. People have had some success with it. The Hisui and Gudra also, I think it's relatively solid. I think, you know, B tier is correct with it, especially on those Sinistcha Moltres teams, along with screens. You know, like we discussed earlier with Moltres, I think also gives it some use. And then again, like we said, set up with Iron Defense Body Press, the Hisui and Gudra is in a great spot. The Landers can't KO it after a while. You know, if you get like leftovers recovery along with Sinistcha to help it out, you know, it's going to be good. Like, you know, think about it. Sinistcha redirects the ground and fighting type moves, which is what the Hisui and Gudra is weak against, right? So that's the main benefit there. So, you know, I still think it's very, very solid. Trevenant, I mean, yeah, like another one, right? You're not this bad, but you're not super great either. I think you're going in the niche tier. Same thing with this one. The, you know, a strong special attacker in Trick Room, but that's about it. This one, yeah, oh, Serena, like again, good at blocking priority, you know, with Queenly Majesty, but there are other Pokemon that can do this job as well, like something like, you know, Bruxish or the Farigiraf, which I would probably put in B tier with, now that I've seen. Yeah, you know what, let's just go ahead and just put it right now. So, you know, the difference here is that this gets Imprisoned Trick Room, this does not. All right, and that's why Farigiraf is probably the better option to use over something like, you know, Serena at this given moment. But yeah, the Oranguru, again, pretty good. You know, you won't see it so much outside of those Trick Room teams. You know, a lot of them like to spam it sometimes, just depending on the Trick Room team, but it does have a use. Mimikyu, like, yeah, another one. Like, you want to put it in B, but I think C tier is correct. A little bit higher C tier. Like, it's definitely better than a lot of these things. I'm thinking. Yeah, I think C tier is correct. Yeah, like again, the Ghost Fairy typing is good. It's not too bad. You know, just like Flutter Mane, you do have Shadow Sneak, so you have priority there. But overall, yeah, again, Trick Room, you do have Curse, still very niche. All right, Kamo, putting in the A tier. This Dragon typing is so good. Dragon Fighting even walls both of the Urshifus. And then, you know, again, all the Ogerpon attacks, and you could do the Clangorous Soul clanging scale stuff, or you can do the Iron Defense Body Press stuff. Special attacking combo is also strong. Like, the format needs some good special attackers because it's very physical at this moment. Typical sets with, you know, with Clefairy and Sinistcha are nice. With an Intimidate user like an Arcanine or even like a Landorus are also very, very good. But yeah, Combo has risen in the format, and it's good. Like, you know, Kamo's a cool Pokemon. We want to see stuff like Kamo rise and do relatively well. All right, Rillaboom, you know, S tier, man. Like, it's still very good. Fake Out with Grassy Glide now is strong, and even without Grassy Glide, it was already like good. You know, U-turn, Wood Hammer, setting terrain, removing Indeedee's terrain for that matter, boosting Ogerpon's grass type attacks now. Makes it a very, very good Pokemon. So, you know, again, another one of your S tier mons. Grimmsnarl, decent screen setter still. Like, the advantage of Grimmsnarl versus Ninetales is you get priority screens, right? Now, this one has all-in-one, where like Auroraville has, you know, yeah, you just need to use it once, whereas Grimmsnarl needs to either set light screen or reflect first, so you need two options. But that being said, you get access to like Parting Shot and Thunder Wave, and Spirit Break has always been a good move. All right, And it has done well with Moltres and Hisuian Gudra in the past, so yeah, I do like it there. Alright, the male Indeedee, probably in the C tier, but the female one, still very solid. Again, Indeedee Hatterene or Indeedee Armarouge with Torkoal and Ursaluna is your premier Trick Room team. You know, you do have to watch out for some of the dark types right now, but this is your premier redirector in the Size Spam archetype. So if you want to use that, definitely, you know, you can. Just make sure you have an Indeedee. Dragapult, so another good, strong dragon type. You know, again, very, very fast. You're the fastest thing, you know, not named Electrode, right? Or even Regieleki, but, you know, Dragon Darts with Chien-Pao is also very, very strong. But where is Chien-Pao here? Do I have it here? Yeah, let's go ahead and grab Chien-Pao now. I think even Chien-Pao is going to be like either in the A tier or the S tier. Where do I want to put this thing? I still think this is very good. You know what? Let's put it here, still in S. Like the fact that it also gets Haze. But yeah, like back to Dragapult. Like again, choice band sets are still very, very strong. It's just a hard hitting mon. You can't intimidate this thing. So yeah, and then Chien-Pao, like we said, Sucker Punch Pressure, Sacred Sword, Icicle Spear, Icicle Crash, Ice Spinner. You know, either way, you have a really, really strong ice type attack. So in that reason, yeah, like I see no reason why you don't have to. You can't really put this anything lower, right? If anything, maybe a high A, but I still think S tier is correct with Chien-Pao at this given moment. Urshifu. So people might have seen like, oh look, Urshifu went down because of the Water Ogre Pond, but yet again, it's still strong in the given format. It still does very, very well. Because if you don't have Water Ogre Pond, then look out, right? Because, you know, with Fake Out Pressure with Rillaboom, all right, Fake Out Surging Strikes is still very, very strong. Then you still have Chien-Pao on your teams. Okay, then you can even slap on your own Ogre Ponds, and now all of a sudden, the Urshifu is back yet again in the meta. Choice Scarf set, Mystic Water set, either way, still very good. You know, this team, actually, whatever we have right now in S tier could be like a legit team. All right, so yeah. Regieleki, man, you really miss Dynamax, don't you, man? Poor Regieleki. Does get speed control, Electro Web, but, you know, without it, you know, and the nerf, you'd have to find a certain team for it. Still could be good, but, you know, Dynamax was the peak of its heyday. Regidrago, you know, in Regulation D was pretty good, and it's still okay now. You know, with that Tornadus team, you know, along with Farigiraf and maybe even the Ogre Pond and Fluttermane, can do relatively well, but it does need Tailwind 100%. But still a solid sweeper, right? Especially another good strong special attacker. Does have that dragon typing, like we said. Could be relatively bulky as well. But yeah. Glastrier and Spectrier. I think both are in the C tier. High C tier, of course. You know, they both have had, you know, varied success here and there. We did make a good Glastrier team back in Regulation, and it still can do well, right? But overall, I think you have better options in Trick Room besides the Glastrier, but it can work, right? Same thing with Spectrier. You get Will-O-Wisp, you get Shadow Ball, you have the ability to Steamroll, but it's very specific where you would use this over something like Fluttermane. The Wiredeer, Intimidate user with Trick Room, you know, could be good on some of those teams, but your premier Trick Room setters, you know, Dusclops, Cresselia, other than that, maybe even like some gimmicky Fluttermane set, still better than the Wiredeer. I want better Intimidate users than this thing. All right, the Ursaluna, I think A tier is correct. Very, very good Trick Room sweeper, one of the premier ones. And again, does get Intimidate spam cycled a little bit, but Guts with Cresselia, you know, to just be able to heal this thing over time, you know, and mitigating that Flame Orb damage is very, very good. And then now you can also see like bulk up Swords Dance sets. Overall, still very, very good. Where's the special one? Yeah, let's talk about the special one. Also within the A tier, like, you know, you'll see teams like this with, you know, still like Cresselia and the Ursaluna, but now you'll have something like this. So let's put Cress in the Blood Moon Ursaluna, but now people are starting to run it with Chiyu, all right, and Fluttermane. So the idea here is that the Chiyu is boosting the damage of the Ursaluna, which makes a lot of sense. And then you just have like the Ogre Pond here, the water one, and then you have an intimidate user like Landorus, right? This is the current, you know, 6 that's like most popular and running around with Ursaluna. If not this, then you have something like Dusclops here, right? Where this one now has weakness policy, right? Where you can proc it with Brick Break. So multi-purpose Dusclops here. But all in all, like this is like your premier set. And then, you know, Chi is just making Ursaluna do a ton of damage. And this one doesn't get Intimidate cycled, right? Because you're a special attacker. But, you know, the Hyper Voice and then Blood Moon, right? Along with Earth Power and then Protect. Like this is a very, very good set for it. All right. But yeah, both definitely in the A tier. Basque Legions, Brain Teams, definitely want to use it. I don't know about this one. Yeah, we'll just put it there anyway. Sneasler, another one, like Unburden is good. Gets that nice little speed boost. Fake Out, Dire Claw, Close Combat, pretty good. Definitely within the higher C tiers for sure. But other than that, I can't really see it cracking into the B tier just yet. The Enamoruses, I think both, again, within the C tier. Like this one's pretty good in Trick Room. This one, the Contrary Boost, had maybe like one result in Regulation D, but other than that, you know, you have to tell me why I would use this over something like Fluttermane. And now we're really shooting in the C tiers. So like Meowscarada, another one, like, yeah, like Dark, it still gets outsped by Bundle. Like, but again, I can't really put it in the D tier. It's just much better than them. But, you know, it had its time in Reg C. Palmont, very specific on those Dondozo teams still. Mousehold, to me, is still like pretty good. I think B tier is still okay here. Along with Annihilate stuff. Where's the Annihilate? Let me grab him too. Yeah, Mousehold and Annihilate still pretty good. You know, solid B tier. You know, Redirector. And then now you can also click Population Bomb. Super Fang is also pretty good. It's relatively fast. Annihilate, also another Defiant Mon that can deter stuff like Arcanine and Landorus's, or even Gyarados for that matter. Can set up with bulk ups. Still has Final Gambit use, you know, with those Trick Room teams. Still a decent Mon. Garganical, I feel like could still work on some teams, but yeah, I don't know. I think it had its fun, you know, in previous formats. Armarouge and Scarlet. So Scarlet can go here in the C tier, whereas Armarouge I think is still pretty good, right? Let's put it in the B tier. Let's put it next to Indeedee. Psyspam, right? Psyspam, still very good. You still have to respect it, of course, and for that reason, Armarouge is still very, very good, right? Wide Guard use, Trick Room setter. You know, you'll find it on some of these Ursaluna teams as well. Good, strong special attacker. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's a good, solid archetype, you know, in the Armarouge. Palafin, like, yeah, it's... Man, do I put it in B? I don't know, man. I haven't seen Palafin in days. I think C tier is still correct. You'd have to adapt the set somehow, like maybe a bulk up set. I don't know, but the Urshifu is still like the better one to use, and now you have Ogerpon too. So tell me why I should use Palafin over those two. Orthworm, you know, has some interesting play with Landorus, of course. The Bulldoze, the Earthquakes from something like Gyarados or Dragonite was a thing in Reg D, but other than that, you know, you're not really gonna see it. Glimmora, not too bad, you know, with those Dondozo teams with Tailwind support, along with Chiyu Fluttermane, setting up Toxic Spikes with residual poison damage, is still very, very good. I think it's okay. All right, the Co-Star stuff with Flamigo, all right, I've seen this with either stuff like Kamo or even stuff like with the Alolan Muck with the Alchemy stuff. You know, is the Muck here even? I don't even yeah, we don't even have the Muck, so for whatever reason. All right, C tier is correct. All right, don't ask me questions about this thing. All right, so Titan, you know, we just had a video on it. It's again relatively niche. You know, Citrus Berry, you know, the Belly Drum set. Okay, sure. Other than that, you know, could work with Ninetales, but that's about it really. Dondozo Tatsugiri, man. Yeah, man, I gotta put it back in the A tier, but I'm putting it in the like low A tier, right? You know, it is slowly rising yet again as of this moment. right? And now you pretty much have to run something to respect it, okay? You know, with after like Reg C or even like after Reg B, or even Reg A, like Dondozo has like decreased over time in terms of like usage, but it's still top cutting tours. You'll still see it in regional top cuts. All right, so it still has to be respected in your team building, and now it's slowly rising yet again because people are no longer respecting it. So it's rising again and punishing teams for it. So to me, it's going in the A tier. King Gambit, man, I really want to put this in S tier, but I can't. I'm putting it in A tier. So it's had a bit of a resurgence in regulationE. Again, strong defiant user. The Swords Dance set with black glasses is really good. You can see this paired on back Scalper teams. You can see this paired on, you know, even like maybe Roaring Moon teams. But King Gambit, along with, you know, even like those Tornadoes teams with Chiyu, Fluttermane, and Ogerpon, that's also relatively good. But here's your premier set with King Gambit. Not the only set, just one of the sets. But it's, you know, Sucker Punch priority, Kowtow Cleave, Swords Dance, and then Protect in this slot. Very, very good. I've seen some Life Orb Assurance sets. I've even seen some Assault Vest sets, but all in all, King Gambit, very, very good. Look at this bulk. 100 base HP, 120 defense. Even the special defense is still pretty good, like 85. So King Gambit has just like good stats altogether, right? It's a good Pokemon. Definitely use it if you got a chance. Oh man, Greytuss. It once was so good, but Landers came in and said, we don't need you anymore, right? Screentail, bulky Trick Room Setter, has Encore disabled. That's about it. The Brute Bonnet, I don't know. I still think it's okay, right? But I think higher C tier than some of these options is pretty good here. So yeah, this is like not in any order. I just threw it into the C tier. But you know, Brute Bonnet, that dark typing there doesn't make it so great. You know, weak to Fluttermane. Does get photosynthesis again. Like again, Rage Powder, still gets Spore, Bullet Seed. You know, with the loaded dice set. All right, it's still okay. And then you can just have Rage, you know, Protect in this slot. Like it's still okay, and you also get Clear Smog too. So yeah, I mean, you can definitely find a team for it, but do I really need it? I got Ogerpon and Amoonguss or Rillaboom. Like, tell me why I need Brute Bonnet. I even got Sinistcha to use, which, by the way, speaking of Sinistcha, let's just go ahead and grab it. Let's go ahead and put it in the A tier. All right, Sinistcha, very good, especially behind screens. Relatively good in you know, on balanced teams as well. You got Trick Room access. Like, if you just look at its set, right? Okay, look at this. We don't even we've never had a Pokemon like this. Like Hospitality, you got Rocky Helmet here. You get Rage Powder. You get Strength Sap. Okay, of course the signature Matcha Gotcha for more regeneration, and then here's your Trick Room. Right, it's just so good. Look at this bulk. Like you can do like something like this, like a bold set where you have some defense investment, right? Something like this, and then a little bit of special attack, 1 point in speed, and then just dump the rest in Spidef like this, like a bulky Sinistcha set, right? And then its job is just to deal damage with Matcha Gotcha. Stay on the field, you know, neuter physical attackers with Strength Sap, and the meta is very physical right now, and you have redirection support, and you get speed control with Trick Room. Like, it's so good. It's good with Moltres. It's been good with Kamo. It's been good, you know, with the Gudra. It's been good, you know, with back Scalper. It's been good with Roaring Moon altogether. Like, there's so many teams that really can use the Sinistcha. I like it a lot. All right, Fluttermane. All right, man, still in the S tier without a doubt. Of course, your premier Pokemon that has been #1 use for the last maybe half a year already. I don't really need to discuss why Fluttermane is within the S tier. Let's keep it moving. Slitherwing, man, I wish this thing could be better, right? I'm on Sierra's team for this, but all in all, it's a little tough to use. Okay, same thing with Sandy Shocks. Like, all of these Pokemon, like, okay, you're not D tier bad, but you know, you're pretty close. Iron Bundle, all right, definitely in the A tier, somewhere maybe here, right? It's back again, you know, just like King Gambit. It had a resurgence. Icy Wind speed control with booster energy. You're able to slow a lot of things down. Freeze Dry, really good into Milotic, as well as like the Water Ogerpon for that matter. And then, you know, just great for what it needs to do. Just be aware of Hydro Pump misses, of course, but it's good again. All right, Iron Hands, Clover's favorite Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet, pretty much. You know, I see no reason why we have to put this any lower than S tier. Do I even need to say anything, right? Fake Out, you know, the super bulky with the Assault Vest, okay? I don't even know why I'm doing this, right? You already know what this thing does since half a year ago, right? And then sniping Fluttermanes with Heavy Slam, which is the main weakness to it, right? Now all you have to do is just adjust it with Terra Fire, you know, to resist the Ogerpon stuff. And now you have great defense. You know, again, like I said, Fake Out Pressure, Drain Punch, Wild Charge. So like, even whatever damage you do take, you just regen it back with Drain Punch, right? And it does well also with Sinistra. You know, you're taking recoil damage and then you just heal it right back up. All in all, like, Iron Hand's best Pokemon by far in Scarlet and Violet. Fight me otherwise. I really want to put this thing in D tier, but you know, you do get Tailwind, so I'll give you Niche. Same thing over here. Yeah, like all these other Paradox Pokemon, like, you know, they're not D tier bad, but like you just don't really use them. Scalper. All right, where am I putting you? Am I putting you in high B or am I gonna put you in low A? All right. Yeah, man. No, Scalper is the man. You know, like Ninetales Scalper teams, super good. You know, we made that squad with Philip, of course, but even before that, Scalper has had good placements in regionals, and even in the online tours, you can see it's doing relatively well. And the difference now in Regulation E, right, is that it gets Scale Shot, right? And like I said, like again, this is the speed move, so you still get Icicle Spear, Scale Shot. Let me put it over here. Now you can do Swords Dance. You don't need Dragon Dance anymore, and then Protect. So now what you're able to do is, you might say I'm weakening my defense, but you're in snow, right? You have a Ninetales. So not only that, you have an Intimidator, either in the Hisuian Arcanine or the, you know, or the Landorus. And now what you're able to do is say, you know what, my defense from this one Scale Shot is not going to be super bad. Just click it and then have speed control for the rest of the game, right? You know, you're just going to outspeed and sweep everything. Right, and this is actually a pretty good fight if you look at it. Now all you need to do is just slap on an Ogerpon here and you're good. Okay? But yeah, Scalper. Goldengo, another one within the A tier. Immunity to Amoonguss is good. Shadow Ball, you know, Nasty Plot, Shadow Ball, or I'm sorry, Nasty Plot, and then Make It Rain. Very, very good. You know, this has been in the A tier for a long time. Wo-Chien, man, you know, it has cool design, but this just ain't it right now for Wo-Chien. Same thing with Tinglu. There was a time when Tinglu was in the S tier. That was back in Regulation C with the Tinglu, Fluttermane, Arcanine, Amoonguss stuff. But Palafin, you know, that was a team. But times have fallen hard on Tinglu. But it can still work, right? It can still work. Especially, you know, you just have to be aware, like, okay, Chanpal, Rillaboom, Ogerpon, all right? They do a lot into it. It's tough right now. Chiyu, A tier for sure. You know, combos well with Fluttermane. One of your best special attack combinations, if not the best special attack combinations. You get access to Snarl. You can blow something up with Overheat. You get consistent damage with Heat Wave. Okay, and Dark Pulse, you can flinch something for the hacks, right? It's so good. And you know, now people are using it with like Ursaluna stuff, the Blood Moon version, to deal even more damage. It's really good. Like, I almost want to put in the S tier. Roaring Moon, definitely in the A tier. With this is one of our favorite dragon types, along with Salamence, which unfortunately is not here, right? But it gets knockoff this time. You can do Dragon Dance, Tailwind stuff with Roaring Moon. The dragon typing, all in all, you know, will resist the Ogerpon damage, and then Acrobatics with Terra Flying can pretty much just one-shot them. So you got that going for you. And then, you know, if you have the speed over the Fluttermane, you can just one-shot that thing as well. You know, and you'll see Roaring Moon teams paired a lot with either Milotic or King Gambit, because one way to really stop its damage is to intimidate it. But in doing so, you make these two things also very, very strong. So you have to watch out for that. Iron Valiant, you know, the fairy typing may have some use for it now, but other than that, let's put it in the C tier. Nothing else we can really do with the Valiant. Okie is the better of the other two. So you know what? Let me put these two guys down here. You know, Pheasantipity and the Monkey Dory. They have some use, but there are better support options and there's better nukers than this thing. But the Okie with the Guard Dog is pretty good. And I want to put that in a very, very solid B tier. If we just put Okie on the screen for a second, okay? If you look at its stats, it's pretty bulky. It almost reminds you of Incineroar, right? Like, you know, good HP, you know, very good attack, very good defense. Even the special defense is also very good. All right, and then like we said, Guard Dog, you know, immune to Intimidate, gives you +1 attack. And then at the same time, you know, you have like these bulk up plays where you can just sit behind Ninetales screens and sweep, right? So you have that going for you. Okay, then you have like Drain Punch. And then what's your main poison move here? Is it Poison Jab or, you know, Poison Fang? Let's see. Yeah, it's probably just where is it? Yeah, you do have Gongshang and Poison Jab. Yeah, either one, I guess. So maybe even this one or even Poison Jab. Either way, leftovers with bulk up is pretty good. You can even consider Assault Vest on this thing, but it's a good Pokemon. Right? Anytime you can like not care about Intimidate is also very, very good. All right, finally the 3 ogres. So I think both the water and the fire are going in the S tier, whereas the rock is still okay. I think the rock one can go. Where can we put it? I still think it's okay. You know what? I'll also put the rock in the B tier, and then the grass one, like it's still good, right? It's okay. I'll put it in like low B tier or something like that. It's just not as played as some of the other 3 ogre pawns, right? But I think this is correct for it, right? So, and there it is. There's our regulationE tier list, all right? So look at our S tier. So we got Iron Hands, Landorus, Ursh, Rillaboom, Tornadus, Cresselia, Chanpal, Fluttermane, and the 2 ogres, the fire and the water one, all right? And I think that S tier is correct. I can't really see any of these other A tier mons going in the S tier. Maybe you can make the argument for Amoonguss, or even like Arcanine and Bundle, but I think high A tier is correct for these things. B tier, this also makes sense to me. Now, the main thing I want to ask is there anything in the C tier that can make its way into the B tier, where like it's a little bit more used than we think? And the answer is no. Like a lot of these are like relatively niche, right? Or just kind of bad, but not as bad as don't use, right? And I think this is it. Yeah. All right, so this is where we are in the meta. I think right now this is what you're looking at in terms of like your best options from S all the way down to B with some C, right? So yeah, let me know what you think of our list, and if you think we missed something, or if this list was missing some Pokemon that you feel, you know, we should have, it should have been there. Let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it. But yeah, this is our tier list. All right, we'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good one.